Most people believe that Bitcoin and blockchain are one and the same thing. They're not. Bitcoin has just happened to be the first application to use the blockchain technology. In this video, I will talk about the blockchain using simple words and without even mentioning the Bitcoin. So what is this blockchain? Where did it come from? Who invented it? To keep it short and simple, it doesn't matter who invented it or where it came from. It's like the internet. Most people don't know who invented it or how it came to be, but we're all using it, and a lot of those people are using it very successfully in their businesses. Basically, a blockchain is a public database where everybody can store information and anybody can see that information. The blockchain is the third version of the internet. The first version was with the web, which was read-only, and its winners were Microsoft and Google. The second and the current version is social media and mobile apps. And the winners are Google, Apple, and maybe Facebook. And now there is the blockchain, as some people like to call it Web3. So who's gonna be the winner in this version? The answer, everybody. How come? To explain, let's compare it to Web2. As I mentioned earlier, Web2 has been dominated by these large companies like Facebook and Twitter. You can write a post on Facebook, but they control it. They own the data. They can delete the post if they want. And also, it goes without saying that they make the most money out of your posts, then give you just a little bit. Mark Zuckerberg and the owners are at the center. They get to decide the rules, so it's centralized. The opposite to that will be a decentralized Facebook, meaning nobody at the center. It's peer-to-peer, users paying users, no more middleman taking the big cut. And that's what the blockchain is all about. So how does that work? Before I explain how, a little disclaimer. I have zero skills in programming or IT in general. The examples I'm gonna use are very basic and maybe too simple and full of flaws. But we are still at the very early stages of this new technology. Developers and entrepreneurs are working creatively to build better systems. There's going to be a lot of innovation that nobody can really predict. Alright, let's get to it. Let's say Drake, who is an app developer, builds a decentralized version of Facebook on the blockchain. Let's call it Facebook. Without getting too technical, in web or app development, there is a front end, which is what you see and interact with on your browser or phone, and a back end. It's what's going on behind the scenes. Basically, it deals with storing and organizing data. With current technology, the front end still has to be centralized, meaning somebody has to control and update the way the Facebook app would look on your phone or browser. But the point isn't to make everything decentralized. The point is to make the core, that is the source code, and the user's data decentralized. In other words, storing the user's data and the source code on the blockchain. Having your data stored on the blockchain doesn't mean everybody has access to your data. Thanks to something called private key, which deserves its own video that I will make later, users can be assured that only them can have access to their data. Having the source code stored on the blockchains means all the data is actually open to everybody. So developers in particular would love this. It's like Legos, or it's actually digital Legos. They can just copy the Lego and then build on top of it. Now let's talk business. After Drake builds Facebook, he then issues utility tokens. You can think of these like the tokens you might buy at a fair to get on a ride. Different operators can have their own rides and set their own price in terms of tokens. In this analogy, Facebook is like the fair, except it's not owned by anybody, which means everybody is welcomed and nobody can kick you out. You can set your own page on Facebook just like you do on Facebook, but this time users can pay you directly by buying the utility tokens and use them to pay in exchange for access to your content, for which you yourself set the fees. All these transactions can be facilitated by smart contracts, which too deserves its own video. Now let's see how Drake can get paid for his efforts. Drake can issue security tokens. You can think of these as the stocks and shares of the Facebook company. Drake can now create Facebook and create value for himself by retaining some of the security tokens. If Facebook becomes widely used, the value of the tokens will increase. And when a token appreciates in value, it draws the attention of early speculators, developers, and entrepreneurs. They become stakeholders and financially invested in its success. And because the source code of Facebook is on the blockchain and thus open to everybody, a developer who believes in Facebook and sees its potential can buy a share of Facebook security tokens, then build an app on top of it, hoping that would attract more users and thus increase the value of the tokens. Or he can build an app on top of Facebook and then issues his own tokens. People who want to use that app need to buy his tokens. The other cool aspect of the blockchain is that it's trustless, because once an information is put on the blockchain, it will be impossible to change it. So if you write a post on Facebook, then it's gonna be there and you can't later deny you've said that. Blockchains don't guarantee truth. They just preserve truths and lies from later alteration, allowing people to later analyze them and figure out what's true and what's not true. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or anything to add, please leave it in the comment section so we can all learn from each other and navigate this new era.